Tired of hearing the same ads over and over with AI voices much like this one? Tired of ads telling you to get rid of ads like this? Then subscribe to Matthew Donald's Patreon at patreon.com/Matthew Donald, where you can listen to Paleo Bites episodes ad-free while also getting bonus episodes every month. Yay, capitalism.
Roar, growl, snarl, bellow.
Welcome to Paleo Bites, the podcast that makes jokes like, Velociraptor? I barely know her, and expects you to laugh. My name is Matthew Donald, and each week I, in a rotating series of guest co-hosts, talk about and rate a genus of prehistoric animal, be it dinosaur, mammal, arthropod, and so on. This week I'm joined by my favorite D&D dungeon master, Alan Brooks. How are you?
You could not have started with a more cringe statement. Oh my gosh.
I don't know about
Or
that.
joke,
I've got plenty of.
Oh gosh.
I've got plenty of cringe in the tank.
I challenged him. Oh no. Shoot. I totally challenged you. I did. Okay.
I've got so much
everyone.
cringe in the tank.
Trying to
yes,
get
hello. Let's
over
not
the cringe.
Let's get past the cringe. Yes.
Get past the cringe. Get past the cringe. You can do it. Anyway.
So let's talk. We're going to talk about a very non-cringy animal. But before we do, dinosaur-related question. So this came up. This creature came up because apparently the gorgonopsids, which is what this creature we're going to talk about are apparently in D&D. Have you heard anything about that? That's a dinosaur-related question.
I wasn't aware they were in D&D unless... Is Dimetrodon a gorgonopsid?
No, Dimetrodon is it is also a therapsid, but it's a pelecylosaur, I believe is what the Dimetrodon is.
Oh, really? I wouldn't actually know how they show up in D&D.
Hold on, let me look this up because I am a professional. Okay, wait a minute. It's not a. I thought it was a pelecylosaur. Is that the term I'm thinking of? I might be thinking of something different. Hold on. Okay. Now, first I'm checking to see if I was right with the pelecylosaur. Also, I'm not pronouncing it right. It says here that it's a sphincodontid of sphincodont. It's a genus. That's not very helpful. All right. And it's therapsid. Okay, so it's not a pelecylosaur. I have no idea what a pelecylosaur or whatever it is I'm thinking of. That's something completely different. But okay, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about gorgonopsid. All right, gorgonopsid. D&D.
Where do they show up in D&D? Because, I mean, looking at some of the gorgonopsids, and in particular, the one we're talking about today, help me out with the pronunciation. It's a little challenging. Inostrancevia? Inostrancevia.
Inostrancevia. It's good with a, to think about, just, again, I said this off the air, but, like, it's easier to say it with a Russian accent. It's like, Inostrancevia.
It was discovered in Russia, so not surprising.
Yes,
but yeah,
and it was named after a Russian. It was named after Alexander Inostrantsev.
That's cool.
So, all right, hold on. I sent you through the Discord the gorgonopsid, the 5e creature.
Okay, looking through it, I really kind of want to. Okay, if you guys were lower levels, just D&D nerds, or dinosaur D&D nerds, these guys are all like level 8, 9 sort of thing, so this is way beyond it, but gorgonopsids are pretty good. I mean...
Wait, so you're saying like our current characters are too advanced for these things?
Too powerful for this thing, but if you were lower levels, I could seriously throw just one at you, and it could be quite the challenge. It's got some good stuff attached. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. It is not official, however. It is on the homebrew on the D&D wiki.
Okay. Thank you very much for clarifying.
Gorgonopsids.
Yeah.
What are
Inostrancevia of Alexander Inostrantsev, and named after the professor of the paleontologist who described the taxon, which is very wholesome. Naming it after your teacher. Type is a gorgonopsid, like I said, a group of large carnivorous therapsids that are freaking awesome, and that is not up for debate. So gorgonopsids are an advanced class of therapsids that, so unlike Dimetrodon, which was a therapsid that one like had its legs kind of splayed out. Yeah, like a lizard or a crocodile, whatever. Gorgonopsids like, nah, we're straight underneath. Like, we're running.
Okay.
We're running, and we're powerful. And originally in the Permian, there was what was it called? The dinocephalians were the big therapsid predators, like Ankylosaurus, which those still had their legs splayed out, but they had Ankylosaurus is notable for having a really big head. Despite Ankylosaurus being only like 10 or 12 feet long, it had a head the size of Allosaurus's head. So it's got a really big head, and I think that one was actually bigger than Inostrancevia overall, but the dinocephalians went extinct through a smaller mass extinction, not mass extinction, just a smaller extinction in the Mid Permian that wiped out the dinocephalians or made them, or really I'm not sure exactly. Probably need to look that up. The dinocephalians were reduced quite a bit, and so the gorgonopsids took over.
And I also remember you talk about how they have, their legs are straight up underneath themselves, and okay, I am very much a dinosaur amateur, but I always heard that that before the dinosaurs, most reptilians didn't have their legs directly underneath them. They were more like alligators.
I very much thought the Paleozoic was a very crawly group, like era. Everything crawled, everything was slow, everything was like everything was like Jabba the Hutt, basically. Like it's just slow, gooey, like gross. But no, this was like fast and agile and big. Okay, so also, Pelycosaur, the term I was saying earlier, I was correct. That was what a Dimetrodon is. However, that's actually an older term for basal or primitive late Paleozoic synapsids. So it's not. So it's not a proper term. It's not a proper family. The therapsids took over from the Pelycosaur. So what therapsids are? It's kind of confusing because we're therapsids.
So could you say that very simply, very much lies for children sort of thing, therapsids are a little bit of the point at which mammals and reptiles began to split, but at this kind of, or like...
Oh, yes. This is well... Okay, so here's the thing about the mammal-reptile split. It happened quite early. We're talking Carboniferous, I believe.
Carboniferous?
So, yeah... The amniotes, which are amniotes is a tetrapod vertebrate animals that includes reptiles, mammals, and birds, but not fish or amphibians.
Okay.
That is there's the group between that's where all of us came from, and that started in like the late Carboniferous, but then the amniotes split into two: the synapsids, which include mammals. Then the sauropsids, or also known as the diapsids, I believe. So if you want to find when was the last common ancestor between us and dinosaurs, and by extension between us and birds, it's in the late Carboniferous. So
that is a lot older than I thought it would be. That's actually really cool. So Inostrancevia
it's a later therapsid.
It's a later therapsid.
Also, well, not later, I guess. We're later therapsids. It's
we're
later
the
Paleozoic
therapsids.
Yeah, it's a later Paleozoic therapsid. The sauropsids, I've learned to say it's kind of disingenuous to say that mammals evolved from reptiles, because we evolved from a point where reptiles were barely even reptiles. Like, mammals evolved from when reptiles weren't even really reptiles. They were just barely not amphibians.
Yeah. And would you say that it would be accurate to say that back then the synapsids, correct? Synapsids were, yes. You could say that they're the ancestors of mammals, but they are really not mammals in the definition. They would not even be classified as mammals according to the definition we use nowadays.
They would not, but the weird thing is they're not classified as reptiles either because of their skulls being so different with the... they were called mammal-like reptiles for a long time. That's an older term. Now they're called more stem mammals, proto-mammals, or paramammals. So these aren't mammal mammals. They're stem mammals or proto-mammals. And that's what gorgonopsids and by extension Inostrancevia is.
Okay. Sort of early, like you said, stem mammal thing. Not really a mammal according to the modern definition, but it was the ancestor of what we would know as mammals.
It definitely laid eggs. Like, it definitely laid eggs. It definitely didn't give milk. It had a lot of things that did not make it a modern mammal, but it was not reptile either. It was an in-between, a stem mammal. But size, it was 9.8 to 14 feet / 3 to 4.3 meters long, 660 pounds or 300 kilograms. So about the size of a tiger, if not a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of this on, they have those cool size comparison things on Wikipedia. And can I say that thing kind of scares me? This thing, we're talking about its head is sitting about just at your gut. And it's got a big
It's like
head.
a small bear, honestly, is kind of the size
bear.
of it.
Or actually, no, this is like legitimately a hairless bear sort of thing.
And the thing is, hairless is debatable. I've seen depictions of it with hair. We don't know, but like
I know.
I think the most realistic thing is that it had some tufts, kind of like elephants, because true hair hadn't really developed yet.
Okay.
But it could have had a little bit of hair, which is weird to think about. It's weird to think about how close mammals were to conquering the world, but then the dinosaurs came along after the Permian extinction.
Yeah.
And we're just like, nope, it's our planet now, bitch.
That is so cool. Granted, I think Inostrancevia. Now, okay, where was Russia in the Permian in the period where Inostrancevia existed? We're talking about the.
It's pretty much kind of where it was connected to Europe still, but Europe was not connected to Arabia or Africa. That was much further south, and India was all the way down with because this is still Pangea. Pangea happened. Yeah, Pangea happened. First happened at the end of the Carboniferous. So this is we're in Pangea times. Diet carnivore. Time late Permian, 259 to 251 million years ago. You can guess what killed it. Like this thing was so awesome. This thing was so awesome. It took the biggest extinction ever to bring it down.
Yeah, and it was literally right on its basically on its territory's door. The most accepted idea on what caused the Permian extinction was what was called the Siberian.
It's like Siberian traps,
which was basically a giant. To make it simple,
cluster of volcanoes.
Cluster of volcanoes, yes, giant cluster of volcanoes happening in Siberia. Well, modern Russia or modern Siberia. All right, Siberia is part of modern Russia, and we're talking about this thing was discovered in Russia, so. This thing had a front row seat to the Permian extinction, and considering it's a large, probably apex carnivore, not surprising it went extinct, because those don't tend to survive mass extinctions very well. Though, I also have to say, because of where it lived, of all of the gorgonopsids, this genus was more likely to have more fur. Than, the ones that lived in South Africa.
It was a desert, but it was a cold desert where it lived.
Cold
so
desert.
like, until the volcanoes started getting really bad, in which case the desert became hot. So, but
far too hot.
Yeah. So like I said, location, it was in Russia and South Africa, two places that are quite far apart, even back then. So clearly its range must have been immense.
Must have been immense. You're probably going to find some gorgonopsid fossils in the in-between. Now, you said Arabia and like Africa. Arabia wasn't connected to Europe at that point?
I believe it was still connected with Africa, although I'm not 100% sure. I did look this up because I looked at like one of those interactive globes that we can go back in time and see how everything changed. And I looked it up to see like how were Russia or Siberia and Africa together? Yes or no? No. Okay.
No, yeah, they're not.
No, like not even back then. Yeah. So yeah, although the thing is, we could find it. You could potentially find it in between if there's like a geological formation there from that time, but there isn't.
Yeah.
Not that we know of.
Holy cow!
So,
like most of what. That's interesting.
There's a reason why if you wondered like why most late Cretaceous things in North America are in Alberta, or why most early Triassic or late Permian things are in South Africa, or why most Cambrian things are in British Columbia, it's because that's where the formations are. We can't control where they are. Yes, there would be creatures everywhere, but we only know of ones at that time where the formations that have been either pushed up. Not to say that they're not there at all. Maybe they're further underground, or maybe they've been lost. I don't know. I hope when we get into the future, with our fancy laser machines, we can drill miles and miles beneath the earth to get to formations that we can't get to now. I don't know if that's a thing.
I know.
I don't know if geologists could
awesome.
back me on that.
But
yeah.
South Africa, and let's just call it Siberia, because Russia, Russia,
Well, it says
the modern
Europe.
Russia is Siberia, and Kazakhstania are like almost two whole separate things. So that would indicate that the gorgonopsids specifically would have had a range.
Well, this says
That's a huge
European
range.
Russia, though. That says European Russia, though, so I don't necessarily know if it was in Siberia, but although it depends, the Ural Mountains, the thing that separate European Russia, how old are they? Let me check, hold on. They're one of those things that could be really recent, or they could be like from the Cambrian or some crap.
Who knows? I don't think they're that
Let me look.
big, so they may... Yeah, I don't know. Gosh. Yeah.
Geology. Oh, here we go. The Urals are among the world's oldest extant mountain ranges for its age of 250, 300 million years. So it was literally there when the Inostrancevia was there. So it probably was not in Siberia. It did not, unfortunately, quite get a front row seat, but it was close enough that it would still be an issue. But
Beachfront property to the extinction.
Yeah, yes, because it was on the other side of the mountains, of the Ural Mountains, which apparently were still there. What an interesting fact.
That is an old mountain range. Oh, another thing I have to mention about this thing, for all those listeners, this thing had, you could almost call it saber-teeth. It's like
the first
deranged
saber-teeth,
scientist took a saber-tooth tiger, mixed it with a bear, maybe shaved it partially, and then let it loose in the late Permian to just brutalize everything. And again, this thing is big. If this thing was real, it would legitimately be a terrifying creature or if this thing existed nowadays, it is real.
Yeah, I was going to say it was real. It was real.
If it
We're not making
nowadays,
this up.
It would probably be a predator, more like, I'd almost call it like a land-based polar bear.
I feel like it would do really well.
Move pretty quick, but it's too heavily built to be a pursuit predator. So maybe more like a lion. This thing would be a lion with canine teeth.
It would have, but the problem is with the lion is that could it be in a savanna? It could be in a scrubland, but I feel like a savanna you need speed.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't really have a lot of cover. Although I guess there's a little cover. So
there is cover, and if you get low enough, you can be ambushed. And I'm not saying it would be super slow, but it does definitely look like this thing was more saber-tooth tiger style thing. So you could almost say that this thing has perhaps.
I could imagine this thing could pounce really well. I don't know if it could run or sprint. It could run. I don't know if it could sprint, but it could run. I mean, it looks like it could run. But anyway, so
could run.
let me finish
almost
up.
Everything can run. And it does have its legs directly underneath it, and they're not, little tiny stub legs like some
they're
dogs
muscular.
Nowadays.
They are muscular.
So this thing is probably good for short distances, not really good long distance. But if this thing gets a hold of you, that mouth...
it's piercing through your lungs and throat, and you are dead in seconds.
You are dead in seconds. This thing is brutal. I'm not surprised that this thing got as big as it is.
How do you kill a circus? You aim for the jugular. And that's what this thing did. It aimed for the jugular, aka the jugular. You know the joke.
another pun.
I told you that the cringe well has not yet run dry.
Yeah.
So as described in 1922, pop culture appearances, Walking with Monsters, Dinosaur Revolution, Primeval, Life on Our Planet, and the video games Jurassic World Alive and Dino Crisis 2. So yeah, Walking with Monsters is probably where it's most famous. Again, they oversized it. They said it was 5 meters long on that one, which would be cool, but I don't know if it was that big.
So there is a study that suggests that this thing was capable of opening its jaw extremely wide. And another comparison with Similodon, it could have potentially used the killing technique that the Similodon could do. Open its jaw wide and go after, like you said, the jugular. Juggler.
To go after the juggler, yeah. Go
and
get the circus, aim for the juggler.
Another
that's
interesting thing that separates it out is the fact that it shows evidence that it had tooth replacements could have taken place. Where basically,
kind of like a shark or a
shark,
I guess most dinosaurs too. Most dinosaurs do that too, though.
One of the old teeth are pushed out, and a new one pushes out literally from the bottom.
Yeah, that's really cool. One thing I wanted to bring up before, because we talked a lot about how it lived in life, but in terms of our understanding of it, that's actually quite interesting as well. So, in the 1890s, Russian paleontologist and student of Mr. Alexander Inostrantsev, Vladimir Amelitsky, discovered sediments dating to the Upper Permian in northern European Russia, which was a big deal, as beforehand, the only known places, like I said, with the different formations, the only known formation that held fossils from this era at the time that we knew of was South Africa and India. So having a new one is new excavations, So, these excavations went all throughout the following decades, ones that naturally stopped in 1914 after, what broke out. In fact, Vladimir went so hard finding fossils and enduring such brutal conditions that he unexpectedly died in 1917, almost directly due to the struggles, meaning he gave his life finding fossils like Inostrancevia.
Wow.
And in fact, the description of Inostrancevia was posthumous. He first suggested the name before he died, and it was only officially described 5 years after his death. So, Inostrancevia comes from us from beyond the grave, even beyond its 300 million or 250 million year old grave. So, which is pretty cool. I just like the idea of a bunch of Russians being we're bored with the vodka. It's look, new Permian stuff. Let's go dig up some fossils. We have the zinc mines. Let's go to fossil. I don't know. I'm being stereotypical.
Stereotypical, but
I love doing Russian accents.
But yeah, the ability to finding a new Permian thing would basically cause any of the scientists in Russia to look at it with great interest. I mean, like you said, Permian.
We're looking at this new Permian little formation with great interest.
Oh yeah, because as you said, the Permian is so far long ago that a lot of the deposits that started then may have gotten recycled into the Earth's mantle, which means it's all gone.
Yeah. Yes, that's the thing. Fossils, they're not there for... They've been there... This seems like something that should be obvious, but to a lot of people it isn't. They're there... They've been there the whole time. When people say, dinosaurs are so old that there were dinosaur fossils when there were dinosaurs still around, I'm like, well, there were dinosaur fossils from the moment dinosaurs were still around. Because fossils are there the entire time.
Yeah.
They have to survive that entire time. Do you know why we don't have any dinosaur fossils in eastern Mexico? There's a big 6-mile reason why.
Why is that?
They all got blown up by the meteor. Any fossils that would have been there were just boom. So, whenever we find fossils in Mexico, they're either far, far in western Mexico, like Coahuila or they're mammals. Anything else was destroyed. So...
I feel kind of foolish for not realizing that.
No, it's fine, but that's the thing. Most people don't realize. Also, the Ice Age apparently destroyed a lot of fossils from the Cretaceous period. One of the reasons why Laramidia is so unknown, which is how the North American continent... No, Laramidia is the one we know. It's Appalachia that's so unknown. North America was split in two in the Cretaceous period by the West Interior Seaway, the ocean where the mosasaurs lived. Almost all of our late Cretaceous fossils that we know of are from Laramidia, which is the western one. The eastern one, Appalachia, very unknown. The reason why is because fossils there suck. They're really hard to find, and often when we do find them, it's because of some other reason, maybe it was washed ashore from another place, and we only know it was from there because of looking at the chemistry of it, or and one of the reasons why Appalachia's fossils are so poorly known. I just see a spider on my the corner on the...
Matt, focus.
I gotta kill the spider. I have hyperarachnophobia.
Matt, Appalachia, fossils, Ice Age, right?
Hold on! Dad! Can you kill a spider for me? Hold on.
Excuse him while he kills the spider. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to the second half of that rant.
A few moments later.
I went up to get my mom to kill the spider for me because I am an adult, grown-up, 33-year-old man who is taking care of his lovely parents because they're septuagenarians, and it's my sacrifice that I'm here. It's not my benefit. I insist. But
I'm rolling my eyes so hard I feel like they're about to pop out of my head.
Anyway, my mother gratefully killed the spider for me.
But it sounds like what happened was the Ice Age basically ground them to dust.
Yes, you are correct. The reason why Appalachia fossils are so is because the Ice Age sediments basically ground them up and caused them to be weathered away. So there's a lot that we'll never know about, and it's a shame because some of the things we do know from there are tantalizing.
We'll have to talk about that at some future point. Maybe make a whole episode on the mystery of the dinosaurs of Appalachia.
Definitely will bring it up because there's some species that we know of that are only from Appalachia, like Dryptosaurus, which is a tyrannosaurid that's only known from Appalachia. And there's a few. There's a hadrosaur called Hyneri or something like that. I don't know. That potentially could be bigger than Shantungosaurus, making it the biggest non-sauropod dinosaur of all time.
Fascinating, but let's focus on.
Yes. Anyway, so Inostrancevia. The reason why we only found fossils of it in either Russia or South Africa is because that's the only ones that have made it either so far, and either other layers are either underground or destroyed. So it probably was all throughout Pangea, but because it was an awesome predator.
Because again, if you are
awesome predator,
Eurasia, if you're in Eurasia and South Africa, even nowadays, I would consider you have a very large range. Now, this was obviously not Inostrancevia, but it would be the gorgonopsids, which I think Inostrancevia is probably
it was Inostrancevia that was in both.
It was?
Yeah, Inostrancevia was in both. There's a different species of Inostrancevia called Inostrancevia africana. It was only described last year.
Wow, okay, that actually makes it a very, very, very successful late Permian predator. If your genus, I'm gonna have to remember how to do it was, but if your genus is managed genera. Anyway, if your genus,
it took me a long time to realize that genus and species come from the same etymology as general and specific.
In hindsight, that sounds very obvious, but yeah.
I know it's it's one of those things that you hear it and it's like, oh, that's obvious, but it's like, why didn't I realize it before? It's like, oh yeah, no, there was a very successful genus, and so yeah, and what I was gonna say, it's like it was all throughout Pangea probably, and also modern animals had quite a range now. A lot of times when you look at animals that more recent fossils, like cave lions or mastodons, you find them all around the world. You find them in Europe and North America and South America, or all throughout North America. All throughout Asia. It's not because they were just more naturally widespread. It's because since they're more recent, their fossils have had less time to potentially get destroyed. I wager a lot more creatures had wider ranges than we currently know. Cryolophosaurus, the Antarctic dinosaur, I bet it was also in South Africa and in South America as well. Its fossils aren't there.
Yeah.
There were probably Antarctic sauropods because we have sauropods that titanosaurs in South America and Australia, and they were connected to each other only by Antarctica. So I wager onto that ice there's some Antarctica. Basically, everything was much more widespread than we really think. And I think Inostrancevia is good older example of that.
Do you think there's a chance that there was Inostrancevia that existed in what is now South America and North America?
South America, maybe, just because it's close to South Africa. North America, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Because you say that South Africa and European Russia were far apart even back then, and then far apart even now. They were further apart back then, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think South Africa was pointed a little bit further south, and then the whole shelf of North Africa, because sort of Pangea kind of looks like an open dinosaur jaw, and so the jaws were kind of pointed upwards more. So they were kind of even more separate then. But anyways, this episode's been going on long enough. We've all been on a glorious adventure of dealing with spiders, learning about etymology of words, discussing origins of fossils. What a journey. Let's end it by rating this badass creature 1 out of 65 million. And I'm going to give this a perfect 65 million. I think this is an awesome creature that more people need to know about. So...
For once, I have to agree with you. This thing is, it had a large
I just don't know what it could do better.
It took a gigantic mass extinction to get rid of this, to cause this thing to go extinct.
Uh-huh.
And apparently it had a successful enough body plan that it reappeared probably multiple times in the fossil record. And... Oh,
yeah. Well, but the fact that saber-teeth... because that can only happen in mammalian-like teeth. Dinosaurs couldn't have had saber teeth because their teeth were all very uniform.
That is a good thing to point out. Because they were therapsids, they were these sort of stem mammal things, these kind of things. Apparently one of the first things that developed that would be correlatable with modern mammals is the different kinds of teeth. If you look at like a Tyrannosaurus
if you look at dinosaur
teeth,
they're all the same. Tyrannosaurus teeth,
are generally the same. There's no major differences. Again, saber teeth, exclusively a stem mammal sort of thing.
The only exception I can think of for dinosaurs is ones that are so exceptional that they have to put it in the literal name, Heterodontosaurus, which is called that because different tooth lizard. It's called that because it's notable that it had different types of teeth. And some hadrosaurs did have different types of teeth, like they had like chewing ones in the back and grinding ones in the front. Also, to be fair, their duckbills were also toothless, so it's not so much that they had different shaped teeth. They had just they placed the teeth in different areas. So yeah. Yeah, so, dinosaur teeth are very uniform. So having a saber-toothed dinosaur, as awesome as that sounds, probably not very likely, even if evolution were to keep going. But yeah, saber-toothed mammals, very much so, and even the stem mammals. And that is where our lovely Inostrancevia alexandri or africana, or the other one, Urlandius, like the Ural Mountains. That makes sense. Ooh. So, yep, that is where... we leave this glorious creature to rest for today. So that's it for this week. If you'd like to get over the show, you can contact me at paleolithspodcast@gmail.com for any direct questions to me or any of the co-hosts, including Alan, because Alan he's a good person in that he's not on social media. We all should take a page out of his book. Social media is the death of us all as a society.
Live in real life, yes. Anyway.
Live in the three-dimensional world, not the digital world. So, you can I have a book series on Amazon Megazoic available for print and Kindle. No Inostrancevia, and it's a bit before when dinosaurs came to be, and so a bit before Megazoic. You can find me on social media at Paleobites Podcast on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere else, and Paleobites Pod on Twitter. But that's it for this week. Say at the end of every episode of Paleobites. Ooh, you know one thing that could be awesome, that's awesome about this compared to other dinosaurs, which is why I'm bringing them here. This thing probably roared. Because maybe not, because roaring is a very rare thing. But mammals roar and dinosaurs don't.
That's like exclusively a panthera, which is why technically you don't actually have any cougars roaring. But
never mind. I was gonna say we could do a roar at the end, but no, we'll just do a growl like.
Yeah. Depends on what kind of throat thing this has. And again, this is late Permian. We are not exactly going to be finding soft body tissues with that.
Not very derived creatures yet, so yeah.
No.
But yeah, so the only reason why it might not have been able to roar is because it would drink too much vodka. Anyways, bye.
Bye.